And we have a special show today for you here on PM Express. Today we have a studio audience who will be interacting with representatives from both the NDC and the MPP. The national youth organizers who join us from both sides. In fact, for the MPP, we have the Deputy General Secretary, but the NDC, we have the national youth organizer. They will be interacting with first-time voters, prospective first-time voters who just picked up their the cards to vote. They've registered for the very first time. They are looking forward to it, but some aren't also. And I'm really curious about where they really stand on the big issues of the day, right? And that's why we put them together. We have been talking a lot about the issues, but we haven't really isolated it a bit more. And I'm pretty sure you've been following our Just Turned 18 package that we bring you every Monday. And that, in essence, was just to get the views of those who are registering to vote for the first time and also to get their views into the conversation. Inclusivity is very important for us. And that's why we carved out that Just Turned 18 program. And today, we've done 5 shows. We're going to synthesize and bring all the issues together and put it directly to the reps of the political party. So please stay with me. And when I begin to tell you about these numbers here, 1.8 million, you begin to appreciate why these young prospective voters this year can decide the outcome of the elections. And Alicia is telling us already that he expects this number to be voting this year. But also we know that if you look at it, more than 1.43 million newly registered voters already, many of them first-time voters. Young people who turned 18 after the 2020 elections were looking forward to the December 7 this year, but some are not also. And I want to understand that also tonight. Now, 2.6 million of them, we expect that will be first-time voters. But pay attention to this for me. If you look at the last elections, for example, that margin here between NDC and MPP was 522,000 votes. And that number is pretty small compared to the huge number of prospective voters that we're expecting to be voting this year. In other words, the huge numbers of these first-time voters can decide this year's election. So their views matter. Who really is proposing policies that will really appeal to them? But what are the issues of most importance to them? We'll find out today on PM Express. And again, if you go back to 2008, after the runoff, the two parties were separated by just 84,000 votes. So we're talking about a quite tiny number of votes here compared to those who will be voting this year. So elections have been decided with far less numbers. And you really want to pay attention to these first-time voters. And Just Turned 18 is that vehicle that we design here at the election headquarters to tap into that constituency of freshly turned 18 Ghanaians, young men and women who turned 18 after 2020, just to highlight the key issues of importance to them. And we've been talking to them over the period, right? And they've been telling us a few things, and that we want to put to the parties today here on PMS. One of the things they've talked to us about, that many of them are hesitant to even register this year when the EC made that available to them to vote, created opportunity for them to vote. Many of them were hesitant because they have lost trust in their government. The governments have promised them a lot and delivered very little. And we'll get into that with both the both reps of the parties when they join me. Unemployment was another theme that emerged across the 5 episodes that we've so far put out. And we'll get into that also. How are the parties proposing to deal with the unemployment situation? Well, we also spoke to disabled prospective first-time voters, and they felt left out. So inclusivity is something that is important to these prospective first-time voters, those who just turned 18, but they are not getting that from the parties. We are 4 months on election. Do they feel included in these conversations that the parties are having about policy, etc.? We'll hear from them, especially these young disabled men and women who we've been talking to, those with, the special needs indeed. We'll talk to them. Change from the dominant political parties is important to them also. They want an alternative to the NDC and the MPP. I'm wondering, for the NDC and the MPP themselves, what is it that they've been trying to do, knowing that there's a constituency out there that believe that they have failed them and they're looking for a third force. And that conversation we've been having for quite a while, as far as this is concerned. And then the subject of Galamsey is important to them too. It's a subject that we've been engaging here on the Joy News channel for quite a while. The young people also want solutions to the Galamsey. We'll get them to put that question to the political party reps too. Quality of healthcare. And trust me, these young men and women, they know the issues, except that we haven't tapped into that a lot. Just anything is doing that, but are the parties paying attention to it? We'll get to that when we sit. But I'm also curious about this other issue that we found in the 5 episodes, that 50% want free SHS reviewed, and among the lot that we've spoken to so far, but also 37% want it abolished, and then you have 12.5% maintained, right? And this is an interesting point, but many of them tell us that indeed they've seen some improvement when it comes to the cost burden on their parents there, that they are very, very happy with the free SHS, but they also want the review, and both parties are talking about enhancing it. So what exactly will that review look like from the perspective of these young men and women? I have 3 of them in the studio with me, and we'll be engaging with the reps from the political parties. Please stay with us here on PM Express, this special edition I'm looking forward to. Stay with me. And thanks for staying with us here on this PM Express special edition. And I have in the studio my guests already seated. But just before I introduce them, you know that PM Express is always brought to you by Syntex Tanks. It is strong, it is tough, and Syntex Tanks always bring you that bespoke water tanks across this country. It is the first to introduce a double-layer tanks in Ghana. You can always have as many layers as you want, color, size, etc. Just call them and pick your choice. They are across the country, 0244-335-168. Shop online at syntexgh.com. If you really want to follow the ongoing Euros, you want to do it across our many radio platforms here at Multimedia, because we bring you unrivaled coverage, but also commentary. It's on Joy 99.7 FM, Love FM, Hits FM, Adom FM, Inshra FM, and Asempa FM. And I know that there's a game currently ongoing between England and the Netherlands that you really want to catch that live on Joy FM and across our many radio platforms also tonight. And I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I've been joined in the studio right now by my 3 panelists. They just turned 18 after the 2020 elections. They're looking forward, some of them, to voting this year, some aren't. And we've done 5 episodes of just turned 18, and we've selected 3 of them to come into the studio to have a conversation with us so that we can put the questions to the reps from the 2 main political parties. Nia Itego is a prospective first-time voter and is in the studio with me. Hello, Ni.
Yeah.
Great to have you, Ni. How are you doing?
Doing great.
Fantastic. And I'll come to, Ni has a very interesting story I want to tap into. Joseph Okran is also a first-time voter. Hello, Joseph.
Hello.
Great to have you join us in the studio. And Esther is also with us. Hello, Esther.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Yes, and Esther is visually impaired, but she is very excited about exercising her civic responsibility. And I'll get her perspective on this all-important subject very, very quickly. So stay with me. Those are 3 first-time voters who are looking forward to vote. They're prospective first-time voters. They have all registered and picked up their voter ID cards, and they can decide the fate of the 2 main political parties. In the studio with me representing the NDC is George Opariado. You know him, he's a national youth organizer. George, thank you very much. Great to have you in the studio with me. And of course, Haruna Mohammed is the Deputy General Secretary of the party. Haruna, if my hands were that long, I probably would have reached out and shaken you, but I can't do so. But I just say thank you for joining me to interact. I am just going to moderate this conversation. Normally, I ask the questions, but today, they will ask the questions. And so prepare for them. And I want to first set the scene by bringing in my panelist from the Just Turned 18 group. We've done, 5 episodes. And Esther, I want to start with you, right? You have already registered.
Yes, please.
Okay, so you registered this year for the first time.
Yes, please.
Okay, just give me the excitement. Was it exciting for you to queue and get your voter's ID card?
Sure. Honestly, it wasn't stressful for me as a person living with disability. Yeah, precisely, visually impaired. Yeah, so I just went there, then they just attended to me. So it wasn't stressful at all. So I'm excited to have my voter's ID.
Joseph, what about you?
It wasn't stressful either. I knew what could happen if I delayed, if I go in the latter days. So I went earlier on, then I did my registration. When I went, I think I used about 10 minutes. I was done with everything. People were not there because I knew that people would wait for the latter days before they come and do their registrations. I opted to do mine earlier.
Okay, so all of you was smooth for you, the two of you. Nee, what about you? Smooth process?
Stressful.
Stressful, okay.
Yeah.
What made it stressful?
Because for my constituency, there were a lot of people who were now coming to register for the first time. So even if you get there very early in the morning, they were queued there, and unless you know a party agent who can lead you through for it to get it quickly, if not, then you have to join the queue. It won't get your turn. You have to come the next day. Or you have to then send someone to go and join the queue for you early in the morning. Or go and use a stone or something to form a queue.
Okay.
Before it will get to your turn.
Okay.
It was a bit stressful.
And we know, having done 5 episodes of Just Turned 18, that not all first-time, prospective first-time voters or those who turned 18 after 2020 wanted to register because they didn't really care about the electoral process. And as I said there, many of them told us they've been disappointed by the governments over the years. They didn't see any reason why they should go and queue, like me, and stress to get a voter's ID card. So let me ask you, Esther, why did you decide that you want to go and register? What was the motivation?
I think for documentation purpose.
Documentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe there might be a requirement for me to use my voter's ID. And also, it's my civic responsibility. So I want to exercise that power because I will not sit there for people to vote for me and choose whatever they want. So I'll be glad if I choose the person and I want. So that's the reason why I registered.
Okay, so you fundamentally wanted to vote.
Yes.
Wanted to exercise that duty this year.
Sure.
Okay, so that's why you wanted to vote. So 2 issues there for you, 2 reasons. One, documentation, and then secondly, to vote.
Yeah.
Which of these 2 would you say was the preeminent reason, was the most important one for you? I'm curious. Is it to vote? Which of the two reasons? Is it to vote or the documentation? Which was the most important reason for you?
Okay, to vote.
To vote, okay. That's interesting. I like that. I'll come to Nee shortly on that subject. Joseph, why did you register?
Just as she said, I felt like it was my responsibility as a citizen so that, you know, when elections are held and then the ballots are being counted, I always watch on Joy News, stay up all night to see how it all. So I want my vote to be part of that process. If this party A or party B wins or loses, I know my vote was significant. So that's why I chose to register to vote.
Okay, so you also wanted to vote. But Nee, you registered, right?
Yes, please.
You have your card.
Yes, please.
Do you want to vote?
Actually, I'm not voting.
Why?
So I'm a bit disappointed in both parties. So let me say the previous government and the current government. Because even though I'm young, I've seen a lot in my vicinity, even in my own house. I've seen a lot of things that are not going on well, or that are not sitting well with me. So I'm not well convinced to go and vote. So until then, I'll have my card though, because the card, I'm supposed to have it, which is my civic responsibility. But voting, which is also my civic responsibility, I'm not going to exercise it.
Okay. I have the 2 reps from the NDC and MPP here. And this is an interaction between the 2 of you, really, because I brought them here so you can put your questions right to them. Nee, I want to start with you, okay? They represent the 2 parties. What do you want to tell them about that concern you have? You said the reason why you don't want to vote fundamentally is that the issues that are of importance to you in your constituency haven't been dealt with. True?
Yes.
What are these issues?
So 1, unemployment.
Okay.
2, sanitation.
Okay.
3, education. And also financial burden on people, like how the economy is being run.
Okay. So unemployment, sanitation, education, 3 main ones for you. Where do you live, though? Which constituency is that?
Ododo constituency.
Oh, I know Ododo very, very well. It used to be my playground, and so I know that place. Okay, great. So let's start there. You have George and you have Haruna. Please ask them your question.
So my first question is, I believe in continuity. So I believe that when one government started something, which is very good, even though we all criticize, because everything has the good side and the bad side. But I believe that when another government comes into power, they should continue what the previous government started, so that there will be continuity and maintenance of that good thing that was started. Example, in my constituency, we have this school called Accra SMP School, which was started by the previous government.
The NDC?
Yes. But when this government came into power, nothing has been done about it. I don't know what the dialogue has been so far, but nothing has been done about that one. Looking at the free SHS too, the NPP government started it. There have been a lot of up and downs about this free SHS. But I believe that it is good for all of us. So instead of us criticizing it too much and saying that when we come into power, we will not continue to close it down and those kind of things, rather we should look at where the current government has not been able to do it well, and rather polish it up. Looking at sanitation, in my constituency...
Before I go to sanitation, I think let's stick with education for a while, because I think the two first issues you've mentioned border on education. Completing schools, one in your constituency that has been left uncompleted,
yes,
and then the free SHS. Yes, okay. So that for you is your issue you put to them. I'll come to both Joseph and Esther, whether you agree with that. But because he's asked that question, I want to put it to first of all, to you, Haruna, on that education subject of completing projects, though, right? What you say to him, because that's a concern for him.
Thank you very much, Evans. I want to take the opportunity to congratulate my colleagues here who are youth, who have had the opportunity, per the dictates of our Constitution, the 1992 Constitution, to exercise their right to vote and also to register as enshrined in the powers given to Electoral Commission of Ghana. I am happy that I am meeting them today, and because our party, our government, under President Kufuor, envisioned that the human resource base of our country must be built. Women go through a lot of stress in terms of delivery, and by dint of that, we introduced the free maternal health care. All those sitting here have been a very big beneficiary of this particular policy from 2004 to date. Women delivered them, and...
But he's asking if he can stick to his question.
I'm going straight.
No, for tonight, we don't have... I want to give them enough time. So
I am
go straight to the question.
I am happy that our product, a vision that we have brought out under President Kufuor, produced my sister and my two brothers. And I'm very happy with that. On the issue of the education, in terms of educational infrastructure,
yes, and
that is left unattended to in terms of successive government inability to complete projects. I'm unable to assess the nature of that particular project he's talking about. I'm not that familiar with Ododo, but if such a thing has actually happened, that is supposed to support educational infrastructure in the community, and that has not been completed. I want to use this particular medium to call on the educational directorate in the constituency, specifically in the district, to look at this particular concern and to table this matter into the development institutions in terms of government agencies.
Let's put it in a broader context so that we don't make it about Ododo, but broadly, if you pay attention to him, he started by talking about continuity.
Yeah, that's I want to first of all acknowledge.
Yes.
I want to first of all acknowledge what he has raised up. I had the opportunity to go to Pandai. The district education office that was started under President Kufuor was obviously being abandoned by the other administration that was coming, that's the NDC administration. So this cut across all the parties. And when he was saying, he did not mention a particular party. But I want to put this particular thing on record. You remember that when we introduced the free senior high school, we brought up over 870-something projects in terms of educational infrastructure. By 2020, we had completed about 719 of them. So I would be very surprised that if a project is started and that project is not attended to, it is very important that we attend to. And I'm very happy that he's looking at project-based in terms of development. He's not just looking at by himself, but he's looking at project-based. That is going to benefit the Ghanaian youth. That's going to benefit the community. And I believe we as a government, we are much interested in making sure that we continue with our projects that has been started by successive governments.
Yeah, George, you have a commitment to him that if you win power, these projects that have not been completed, not only in Odududu, but across the country, you invest in completing it?
Before I come to your question, let me also take the opportunity to congratulate my younger brothers and sister who have been given the opportunity to exercise that right of voting. And also encourage me that come 7th December, like he said, it is your civic responsibility to vote. Like Esther rightly puts it, you should also be part of that decision-making process so that when roads are not being fixed, when school buildings are abandoned, you know who to hold accountable. And so 7th December, I pray that you have a change of mind. And I believe after this conversation, I would have convinced you enough so you go out there and vote for the NDC, since we believe we are the best alternative to the development of the young people of this country. When we assumed office in 2009, one of the things President Mills is fondly remembered for is his father for all syndrome. And I will not say we completed all abandoned projects, but we took it upon ourselves to make sure that all projects that were started, that were viable, some projects are not viable, but all projects that were viable, that was going to help improve whatever was set out for the project to achieve, was completed. If you recall, when we came, education had been transformed from 3 years to 4 years. And the 4 years started with us. We did accelerated educational program and made sure that infrastructures were built in all schools. We are credited for ending the shift system in the basic schools. And in Odududu, I recall very well, there were a lot of schools in that community that had students attending school in the morning and others attending in the afternoon. And I know the school you're talking about. It was part of the project we started in ending the shift system. So it is unfortunate that almost 8 years down the line, this government has not found it prudent to complete such an important school in the community. Not too long ago, I heard the Simpe chief speak to it, near Otinton or something, speak to that school and asking government to complete it. When the new regional minister was even appointed, the titles global, so I remember he sharing lies on it and asking that school should be completed. Evans, if you know where that school is situated, and if you know the importance that school plays, it was one of the schools that had a double stream. And so one of the things the then mayor of Accra, who is now the MP for Ablekuma South, was working on was to end all the shift systems in Accra. And he was building the Millennium Schools project. And that school, I believe, is one of the Millennium School projects he's referring to. I will urge my brother Haruna that they still have 5 more months before they exit. It is not too late to commit resources in completing that school. If you know,
and beyond that, though, broadly speaking, as a policy, about the projects that this government is currently doing,
I'm going to speak to
about the governance of continuity.
For want of a better word, if you really want to see development, the development is progressive. Development does not happen in a vacuum. If you come into office and then one government, you wanted to introduce free SHS. Before you came, free SHS had started for day students. The rationale behind it was that we're looking at community-based so that students would not have to walk certain distance to access education. So we cited schools, 123 of them. At the time we were leaving, about 76 of them were nearing completion. 23 were almost completed. A lot of these schools have been abandoned. And so it feeds into the bigger picture of abandoning this.
Yeah, but what would you do if you win power and you meet projects like education infrastructure that aren't complete? You commit to first finish them before you build new ones?
Of course, but President Mama has said on various platforms that we are not going to start any new projects until we finish the existing ones.
Okay.
And I believe that is the way to go.
Let me go back to, Niyu asked a question on the education, on the infrastructure. We'll come to the free SHS one because I think I want all of you to weigh in on that. Do you hear that? Did you hear answers that address your issue? Okay. Okay, so let me now bring in Esther. Esther, so you want to vote. What are the key issues for you? And by the way, Nia, I haven't forgotten your unemployment conversation and sanitation. I'll come to that, and I want all of you to weigh in too on that. But I want to hear from Esther. Esther, what about you? What are the issues of importance to you this year? The reason why you go into the booth to exercise that mandate?
Okay, thank you very much. for persons with disability, we are having a lot of problems, and these problems are not solved. And I don't even know whether they've paid attention to that. Maybe they're only focusing on regular people and leaving us out. So we want to be involved this year. So the Disability Act, that's Act 715, it comprises a whole lot. That's employment and stuff. Here is the case. The Vice President says free tertiary education for persons with disability. Yes, that's a good start. But as to when or they are going to implement this is the problem. And after that, you know, there are lots of persons with disability at home now. They've completed school. They have all the qualifications, but here is the case, you go apply for a job, but they'll tell you stuff, they'll give you excuses. Or in the name of your person with disability, maybe they think you can't do it or something. So what are they going to do for us when they come in power?
To create job opportunities?
Job opportunities for persons with disability, where it's going to be permanent, that immediately you complete school, there is a job awaiting for you.
Okay. For persons with disability, George first.
Thank you. Esther, if you know what the NDC stands for, we are a social democratic party, and one of our key cardinals is inclusivity. And so, under His Excellency President Mahama, we appointed the first disabled Minister of States, the Honorable Dana from the Upper West region, if I'm not mistaken. He was visually impaired. He was the Minister for Culture and Chieftaincy Affairs. During our time, I remember we also passed the law on the District Assembly's Common Fund. That's the amount that was ceded to people living with disability should be allocated to them at the district level, and then it should be put into gainful employment. It should be put into vocations and skills that will improve their skills so that they can become people who can be employed. And so the NDC as a party believes strongly that if we are based on our credentials as being a social democratic party, we believe that people living with disability should be given equal access. In 2020, in the People's Manifesto, the promise he claimed the Vice President just made found space in our manifesto by promising that people living with disability will be given free access to tertiary education. And we are still committed to that promise. So it is not the Vice President's promise, it is President John Mahamed's promise from the 2020 manifesto. And we are still stuck to that. As I speak to you currently, we are the only political party in this country that has a disability desk at our party office. A whole secretariat set up for people living with disability. And they are part of our national executive. We don't elect them, but once the elections are done, we now go out and then appoint people. They have an association, and then we get them to appoint people because we know how important your issues are. And if we don't give you that voice, if we don't stand up for you, if we don't support you so that your voices are heard, nobody's going to hear you. And so I can assure you that in terms of job opportunities, we will not be closing down toll booths and sacking them and promising that we are going to turn toll booths into, is it KVIPs or something?
Well, I know you're asking me. You should know. I mean, you are making the point.
So we are very committed. As a political party, we are very committed.
But let's be more specific. Her point is, yes, even when you create the opportunity for the persons with disability to get free education, what happens when they finish? What is the NDC's proposal to fix that?
I just reminded you that between 2009 and 2016.
But that's not, they don't want to look to the past, they look into the future.
I'm going to get to the future. So we have a track record of making sure we're properly trained with their resources, their money that was part of the Race Assembly's Common Fund. It was given to them in every district. I was an MC then. In every district, an office was set up for people with disability under the supervision of the Social Welfare Department. And so they had associations, cooperatives. We trained them in employable skills. We gave them financial support for them to start businesses. So there is a job for them. If you look at our Ejumara policy that we are bringing, there is a whole policy for people with disability. And whatever policies we are bringing on jobs, even the Codex program we are looking at, people with disability can also do coding. And so they are all part of it. And when our Youth Manifesto is launched on the 12th of August, somebody living with disability who is a member of the manifesto committee will speak specifically to issues that affect people living with disability and the job opportunities that will avail to you.
Let me hear from you, Haruna.
Thank you very much.
For you, you've been in government for 8 years.
You're still in government.
So you first have to start by telling her, why is this problem persisting? She's telling you they finished school, they struggle to get into employment. Why is the problem persisting after 8 years?
Evans, you agree with me that even the developed nations, nobody has solved the job of the state of unemployment. Every nation has a gap to fill in terms of job employment to the citizens. And when I say the citizens, it includes everybody, because nobody has the right to discriminate against persons with disability. And if you check the performance of this particular government, I would want to correct my good brother that the MPP has a disability desk that is situated in our Kokomilimli office here, headed by Dr. Kofi Che, and the administrator is a woman in that office. We also have a person with disability in our campaign that is headed by the former OT regional minister.
Why you fired? You know they removed him from office.
You were on to your intervention.
The OT former regional minister. So both strands, both party and then campaign is clearly represented. Indeed, Dr. Baumia made a very clear point of how we have to get persons with disability to be supported to get free tertiary education. Free tertiary education because access has been given from primary under President Kufuor. Access has been given through the GSS under President Kufuor, and access has been given under President Akufo-Addo at the SHS level. It is proper that this foundation that is laid by successive MPP government will be further be inched by giving access to persons with disability, to be given the opportunity to giving free tertiary education. My brother mentioned about these toll booth issues.
But you're not addressing...
Not recently.
You want to address George, but the question is to you.
Yes,
you're not addressing the question, you're addressing George.
No,
the question is about, yes, you give free education to persons with disability, but the jobs aren't there.
Yeah,
How are you addressing
that's what
that?
I'm going to demonstrate.
Yes. How are you addressing that?
We have been able to give about 282 persons with disability to be recruited into the Youth Employment Agency. 282 of persons with disability recruited into the Youth Employment Agency. All those who were at the toll booth and were persons with disability have been taken. Extra number was taken in addition to that. And the Federation of Persons with Disability will attest to what I am saying currently.
But what is the policy to address this at the most sustainable level?
The policy to address this is that Dr. Baumia has been very clear that he is going to give access, opportunity to every citizen. And that is why he has designed that we would have an IT and robotic training for the youth of this country. 1 million of this youth are targeted, and persons with disability are part of the targeted numbers that we have put out. What is it going to give these persons that have been trained? They will be able to set up their own businesses. They will be able to help in terms of industry development. They will be able to contribute their quota into how job opportunities are being laid out there. So the youth of this country, including all sectors in terms of representation, are given access under...
But you're addressing specifically persons...
the Vice President's initiative
physically challenged persons with disability.
Yes, physically challenged. PWDs address all of them.
Yeah.
PWD addresses all of them.
So that's the policy intervention?
Yes, the policy intervention here is to make sure that we get them to be trained on the IT skill. IT skill is the way to go in this particular global systems, because we are all moving away from the manual systems into the era of digitalization. One of it is to make sure that we build them based on their own talent.
Okay,
so that is what we have to do.
Esther,
but we must give them the access first.
Let me go back to Esther. Esther, have they addressed your question?
Yes, please.
Are you satisfied with the answers they're giving you? Are you convinced that indeed have a plan to fix the challenge you just posed to them?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so tell me more about it. I mean, let's have a conversation. So Tell me, expand on that for me. Explain that. You're not convinced.
Because as of now, I know a lot of persons with disability who are not employed in their home. Not that they don't qualify. They have all these qualifications, and you've promised us censors, and we've not seen anything. So are you sure that this coming up election we are putting in power, you are going to fulfill all these that you are saying right now?
So you're not convinced? You mean you're saying you've heard this before?
I've heard it before.
From both parties?
Sure.
Okay. 30 seconds, both. Strictly 30 seconds.
We promised to pass the affirmative action bill.
Yes.
And it is going to be part of the bill it is going to be compulsory for companies, private companies and public organizations to employ people with disabilities.
Okay, so that's your response. They don't trust you.
It's not about bill. It's about action. And that is why we have moved into action. We have ensured that persons with disability are given the opportunity already.
I think it's only when we are seeking for jobs, it's only the private sectors who can employ us, but the government sectors, no. Why is it so?
For me, I would say that perhaps maybe these are isolated cases that you have seen. In the northern region where I've worked for close to 19 years in the public service. I've worked with many PWDs. The sector of which he was mentioning, I was a member of the District Assembly's Persons with Disabilities Fund, of which, yes, under a government. Under a government. Okay. Right? We are talking about something that is going to. It is not really that policy has not been implemented under NDC alone.
Okay, Haruna.
So
I need to hear from Joseph now, because the subject of jobs and unemployment will come back to. But Joseph, I want to hear from you. So you want to vote this year? Yeah. Let's discuss your key issues.
I want to vote this year. Thank you for the opportunity. Before I go ahead, I spoke to a few friends before I came, and then they said they've lost trust in this current government. There's two parties, there are two main parties. So I hope that by...
Personally, have you too?
Kind of, I have.
Why? Let me hear that. Well, why?
You know, issues about Dumso, issues about Galamsey have been issues that have been occurring for the past 7, 8, 9, 10. It's been occurring under two governments.
As long as you've been alive?
As long as I've...
Do you mind asking how old are you now?
I'm 20.
20?
Yes.
So as long as you've been alive, you've always heard about Dumso. Now you're hearing a lot about Galamsey too.
Yes.
And you're not seeing any solutions to it.
I've seen documentaries about it and how disturbing it's getting. And you hear governments, successive governments, and then current governments making promises about fixing the issue, you know, quoting big grammar about fixing it. But yet still, on the grounds, you see that our rivers are being polluted, and these minerals are being mined with chemicals that have effects on the people living in those communities. Recently, I saw a documentary, I think on Joy News, and then there was this, a new goat, and then it had 2 heads. And then scientifically, they said it was because of the chemicals they use for this Galamsey. Our rivers are in bad states. Like when you travel and then you see the rivers, you are like, so in the next 20 to 30 years, what rivers are you going to live for our children and our generations unborn? And so my concerns are mainly about how practical the current government or successive government or future government are going to, how practical their policies are concerning those issues.
Yeah, so in other words, you're saying to me that the two parties, the politicians, they failed you.
Yes.
As a 20-year-old young man, you feel that...
What I've seen,
yeah,
and what I've experienced, I feel like they have failed me so bad. Because the next generation, we are the next generation that they will hand over everything to us. And if things have gotten this bad, then I wonder what we will tell our children. And so my question I have for them is that, what are the policies? And it should be practical policies, not just theory, like things we can't resonate with, things that will not work. But it should be policies that are practical policies about fixing the Dumso crisis, that we will not have it for a long period of time or it won't occur again. Practical policies about reclaiming forests that have been destroyed as a result of Galamsey, fixing the water bodies that have been destroyed, and then how to go about the entire thing. They should And they should give us a plan. Let's say if I come into office, me and my government, for the next 2 years, this is what we are going to do about this issue. And it should be something that will work, not something that will be theoretical.
Okay, so let's start with the Galamsey one. I'll come to the Dumsor one, which is energy and in a provisional power. But the Galamsey one, you want practical solutions. Yes. Because for 20 years, I mean, of course, for like maybe 5 years, you didn't hear anything about it. Then you start getting into your teens, and you begin to hear a lot about illegal mining. And legal mining has become a big issue. And Joseph, thanks that you brought it up. Let's start with you, George. And in the interest of time, if this is an old subject, so you must know what you're going to do about this. It's the biggest environmental threat we have currently. You have a young man, 20 years old, telling you he's lost faith. He believes you politicians have failed him. He wants practical solutions. Let's start with you. Galamsey, how are you fixing it?
I can understand his concern and why he's lost confidence in governments. In the last 8 years, I believe he became politically aware of himself when he turned about 16. And he's been used to this NPP government and the issue of Galamsey in his face every day. So I can understand how he feels.
So when they came into power, he possibly was 12 years?
Yes.
Possibly was 12 years.
So he didn't know.
And 12 years, he was more reasonable to assess. He was reasonable at that time to assess.
And so I can understand it. I can understand how he feels. And then when you have a president who says that I'm going to put my presidency on the line and fight Galamsey, and then you have ministers of state from his own government coming to tell you that the president and his appointees are neck deep in the business of Galamsey, it leaves much to desire. And so I can understand you. What I want to assure you is that the NDC have a very clear, practical solution to deal with the Galamsey menace. We cannot stop small-scale mining. We cannot stop mining in general, but we can stop illegal Galamsey mining.
How?
And I'm going to speak to it. It's the first thing comes to commitment. The leader himself must be committed in ending it. And President John Dramani Mahama is committed in ending Galamsey. What we intend to do is first identifying all the areas where there is Galamsey. We need to have a stakeholders forum and bring on board everybody, especially the landowners. Because you see, when you want to fight Galamsey and you don't look at the livelihood of the people that are affected by what they currently engage in, you will fail. And so we must find an alternative livelihood program for all these people, and which the NDC has come out clearly. Also, one of the difficulties we have is how lands and how the licensing regime takes place. You don't find minerals commission in most of the districts. You don't find land commission officers in most of the districts. You don't find environmental protection officers in most of the districts. Though most of it, they have to travel and come all the way into Accra or to the regional capitals to assess it. What we are saying is that in every district where mining takes place, the regime for licensing is going to totally change. And so if we have an environmental officer in that district, we have a lands commission officer in that district, somebody from the minerals commission in that district, and then whatever it is, the district task force that is put in place. If there is a problem with Galamsey...
A minute more. Just wrap up on this.
If there is a problem with Galamsey, you don't have to travel all the way to Accra. If I come into the district and I realize that people are doing illegal mining, whoever the officer is in that district is going to be held accountable. Because I know that your job is to be in the district, supervise what is happening, report back. When there are challenges, report. And then anybody, and we are committed that any government official, any member of the NDC who commits himself to mining, illegal mining, will not be spared the rod. We will punish people and make sure, and we'll deter people. And mind you, we passed the most laws on Galamsey to deter people. Immediately we left, our brothers came in and opened the floodgates. And under our watch, nobody will mine in any forest reserve.
Haruna,
2017,
the president says he's going to put his presence on the line.
I'm happy that...
The turbidity of the water tells us that promise, you failed in delivering on that promise.
I am happy my brother is reassuring the people of Ghana with respect to their fight against Galamsey. When we were busy fighting Galamsey in 2020, their deputy communication officer, Kokuboyin, was there telling the people, and we were severely punished. If you can remember, we were severely punished in all the mining sectors.
Joseph has asked you a very direct question.
Yes,
he wants to give him practical solutions. You have 2 minutes.
Yes, that's what I'm going to give him practical solutions. But I am just reminding that these people who are promising that they are going to make sure that they will do this, they will do that. were in the communities encouraging the people to do Galamsey just because we were fighting it.
So
and were severely punished.
But you've had
for us, based on the
7
policy,
years now.
based on the vision of His Excellency, the Vice President.
But I don't know, just a minute. Before you even go to how you plan to fix it, you've had 7 years, 7.5 years now. You haven't dealt with it.
We have.
Although you promised.
We introduced the community mining schemes.
Yeah, I'll come. You are just mentioning ticking on the box, but if you look at the evidence on the ground, as he mentioned the documentary he watched, which is Poison for Gold, which we just did last year, won as the Journalist of the Year awards, it shows that there's massive failure in that particular area.
Yeah, but the last time we met at British Council, you remember, mindset was a very key issue when it comes to change. So the government of the day, the Akufo-Addo government, introduced the community mining scheme, brought about several other regulatory activities in terms of making sure that this Galamsey mining is kept under this particular community mining schemes. We've continued to do a lot of educational sensitization. But people, because of the mindset, because it takes all of you to be able to achieve that particular set goal. But people have continued to go into those particular areas because many people or people who are supposed to know have misinformed them and then encourage them to go into those areas. And that is why I was setting the example of our colleagues. So I'm happy that they are coming on board. The vision of Dr. Bawumia is that it's going to formalize and regularize every activity that is going to happen within the environmental sector. First, we have to audit the concessions that has been given out to people who are mining currently. And then we are also going to make sure that we decentralize the Minerals Commission to districts that are engaged into the Galamsey mining areas. We have to decentralize that to make sure that these officers are very close to them. We are also going to make sure that we register every small-scale miner so that we'll be able to assess their need. We'll be able to know where exactly that they are going to mine, so that at least we'll be able to make sure that the laws that governs this particular sector will be introduced to them. We are also going to make sure that we open new community mining schemes, new community mining schemes to ensure that we broaden up to be able to get more other people to get onto the scheme so that to be able to support meaningful mining. We are also going to make sure that we set up committees for responsible reclamation of these particular sites that have been used, because those sites that have been used is leaving these areas very dangerous, and that is causing havoc to the water that we're talking about. Yes, when you did your documentary, everybody was alarmed in terms of the devastating nature of the water bodies that have been affected. And water is life. If we are not able to protect that, all of us will wake up one day and will not have water to drink. And that is why the flag bearer of our party is very much concerned to make sure that this mining sector is re-looked at, so that at least all concessions that have been given out will be able to be reformalized.
Just a second, I want to go back to Joseph. Asked the question. Joseph, have you had an answer? Have you had an answer that addresses your needs?
It's partial. I've not really had the answers I want, because...
by the way, you are now asking the questions, okay? Probe them. You've heard them. This is George, and this is Haruna. So mention their names. Where you are unhappy about something they've said or you don't have clarity, mention your name, George and Haruna. Ask your question.
The part that he spoke about...
Which of them?
Haruna.
Okay.
Yeah, he was like the people were... It's about the change in mindset. But, you know, the people can't govern themselves. That's why we elected the government to come and take control of their affairs. And so if the government is blaming the people, at the end of the day, the government is not able to solve the issue, then it's blaming it on the people for not having a changed mindset. And I think is a failure on the part of the government, because we entrusted power into your hands to come and take care of our river bodies to ensure that Galamsey is dealt with. And then also to George.
Just a second. Let Haruna address that. I don't know, 1 minute. Address his question.
The area of mindset was not about blaming the people, but I am only reiterating the point that it takes all of us to be able to change, and mindset is very key. mindset because all of us has to contribute to the change. So whilst government is elected to lead and to ensure that people change their mind in terms of the way they deal with matters, government cannot authoritatively demand that you must change now. It takes a process.
Okay. You have a question? You have a follow-up on this one? Please ask.
Yeah.
And then I'll come to George. You have a question for George to ask your question again.
Yeah, and so can't the government devise any strategic policies to, get us out of this mess? Because if we keep on blaming it on mindsets, mind you, our river bodies are still being damaged. They are being destroyed. They are not being reclaimed. The lands are being destroyed. Chemicals are still being used to mine. It's having effect on the people. And these rivers, they flow. And it's not going to be in those communities alone. If I don't live there, that does not mean that it's none of my business. It might extend to my area as well. And very soon I might start drinking poisoned water. And so, can't the government devise any strategic policies to ensure that at least if the damage has already been caused, what are the plans of the government to reclaim those lands that have been destroyed, the river bodies that have been destroyed? Because I watched from the documentary I saw, there was this guy drinking the dirty water with the chemicals and everything, the dirt. He was drinking it. And I asked myself that, so isn't this going to affect the health of that guy? And so as we keep on blaming it on each other, it is the people's fault, it is this person's fault, it is that person's fault. Can the government devise any urgent policies to put a stop to that?
To deal with it.
Reclaim the lands and the rivers.
Okay, Joseph, let me give you 1 minute to attempt another answer.
Yes, sir. In my response to the measures that we are putting through, I talk about reclamation. And in the document that is delivered by Dr. Baumia, in this particular document, he indicated in one of the points under a golden age for maximization of the benefit from the natural resources. He did mention that when elected as president, he's going to ensure that he provide equipment to government authorities in mining communities to undertake reclamation of the land. And I think that this is a very key thing that will be able to address this your concern.
Yeah, Joseph, you had a question for George.
Yeah, I wanted to tell him that I've been following politics for quite a long time. So I know that with the previous governments, they also had issues with dealing with Galamsey.
They also set up a task force led by Yunus Husseini. Yunus Husseini was a former lands minister. They also adopted a similar tough approach to this. And yeah, they didn't quite also succeed as they had hoped.
We were more successful.
Well, as they had hoped. So, but I'll ask your question, yes.
But Evans, you get his import because he was 12 years by then. He didn't know he was fully in politics.
And he's following politics. But we have a question for him, please.
I said I was following.
Yeah, he was following.
Yeah, you said he was following, yes. He's following, yes. Yes, Joseph. Joseph, proceed.
Similar question to his. I heard your input about placing some government institutions in those local areas. But my concern is about the rivers, how to reclaim them, because it's when I look at my country and then rivers in the country are that dirty and polluted, and there are governments that have come and gone and they do not do anything about it. I feel so sad, and I feel like it's a shame. And so my question is to your party: what are like the policies? Like, what's the plan? Let's say for the next 2 years when you assume office, what's the plan to reclaim those lands and river bodies that have been destroyed? What are the practical policies you can implement?
That you want to, yeah.
Joseph, let me remind you that you cannot be part of a problem. You are in government and you've not been able to solve the problem, and you keep promising the people you will solve the problem. And so I can understand how you feel. But let's look at it this way. What the NDC is saying, and like Evans rightly said, when we were in government, we started this fight against Galamsey. We looked at first the legal framework. There was a legal framework in dealing with people who were destroying these river bodies. It was not too stringent. So we came up with new laws. Unfortunately, it was just around the time the laws were passed that were voted out. So we expected the NPP to run along with the laws. But we still have a comprehensive plan. In the first 100 days, like I said, one of the key things we promised to do is hold the first stakeholders conference. Do an assessment of what the situation is. We are in opposition. We are not in government. So we may have some information, but you will not have it all. But when you take over the ruins of this country, you're able to assess and get to understand what the real problems are. When we do that stakeholders engagement, we will now begin to appreciate the problem. And like Haruna rightly said.
But we know the problem already, George.
No.
This is problem. It's been with us for a long time.
We know the problem
You set up a task force. On what basis the task force work if they didn't understand the problem?
Evans, the issue with Galamsey is not just about the people mining. There are some communities when the task forces even go in. You have community members. Look at what happened to Major Mahama. Community members lynching him, assaulting him.
But how does a national stakeholder forum address that? Under talk shop?
No, it's not a talk shop. You see, when we were going to do Senchi, we called Senchi a talk shop. But Senchi gave us solutions that stabilized the economy until they messed it up.
Solutions that we knew already?
Oh, no. When the
you just wanted people's buying?
No, you see, when you have people's buying, they are committed to it.
Don't do this. Senchi did not provide us any solution.
But the IMF program he came to implement, where did you get it from?
It told us that we lack policy credibility.
Don't digress. Stay on topic.
So what we are promising you is that, and one of the key things I mentioned is decentralization of the key stakeholders and actors in the mining communities. Because, for instance, if mining is going on here in Joy FM, and there is no officer in charge here, and the officer lives in, let's say, Accra Central, who do you hold responsible? But when you've been put in charge of Joy FM, and then I come in here, and there is a problem, I know who to hold accountable, because you are stationed here. And that is one of the key policies we are proposing, so that we will have district officers for environmental protection, for the Minerals Commission, and for the Lands Commission as well. So that when we come in, and when there is a problem in this community, I know I'm coming to hold me accountable. Because right now, one of the big problems we have is accountability. Because environmental officers are in the regional capitals. Minerals Commission officers are in the national capital.
Okay.
So these are the things we are proposing.
Okay.
And I can assure you that we are committed. It's all about commitment.
Okay.
When you are in government and you've aggregated a problem...
But the fact that you repeat, I am committed, does that convince you?
Evans?
It doesn't? Okay.
So you see the action.
Because
Until you see the action.
you can't see action. He's in government
Lost
and
trust in both of them.
in them, not us.
Because we've lost total trust. So until we see it happening...
Let me put that question to him too. I'll come to you. I want to hear a bit more from the knee. Have you also lost trust in the politicians?
I've lost total trust in them.
Okay.
I don't trust any politician. As for me, one thing I always say, we are all in this and we all be in it. We will all suffer. They'll be like they are in the topmost positions, so as for them, they are not feeling it. We are all feeling it. Whether they sit in the AC and we sit in the sun, we are all suffering. Because if I'm at the lower level, suffering, you think, oh, you are at the higher grounds, definitely will come down to me. You need my help one day. And the time will come where we at the lower level will decide that, no, we are not going to give power to anybody again. We'll take the laws into our hands, so govern ourselves. And at that time will surely come. People will be like, oh, that bend. But that time will gradually come.
So you said something important. You said the time will come when you would take the government yourselves. That's the point you're making as a young person. Explain that for me, because recently we've all been talking a lot about Kenya. What the Gen Z did, and all of you are in that same bracket. So when you say that, are you referencing that, or this is something that you've been thinking about even before Kenya erupted?
I was thinking about that before Kenya's soon happened. When I was very happy. I was like, no, yes, people have lost their life. But as soon as they stood up, something was done. But here in Ghana, the youth have become more like they have chosen their party colors. So if I'm the MPP and something is even going wrong, I'll keep my mouth shut, even though we are all suffering. But if we all decide that, no, we are not going to give these people power, because looking at the figures that you quoted, if all these figures decided not to vote, they're going to allow our mothers and fathers who have been voting to vote. I know that definitely as the time will reach, most of them will not be there to vote again. You can even convince our parents not to vote. Because if they don't get the figures to go and represent us, who is going to represent us, go and tell us, don't do this, don't do that, and they are going to leave us at the mercy of their enjoyment. Yes, because my reason is that if you come to my community,
Very weird.
you see the MPs, they'll come around only during election time. Come and give 10 cedis, 20 cedis, T-shirts, and you see the youth, they'll be shouting for it. But if this youth decide not to take the 20 cedis, decide not to take the T-shirt, it will tell that MP something, say, hey, why are my people rejecting me? Since I have to go back to the people and go and sit down with them and know why they are rejecting me and find solutions to their problem. But because when they come, we accept them. they will go and chop their big meat and come and smear the oil on our mouth. They will be shouting and be supporting them. they don't see us as serious people because every day we wake up on social media, not talking about serious things, misbehaving on social media. We ourselves as the youth, we don't have anything seriously to tell the politicians. So when they will sit down and come and tell us, say, "Di mechina yonko, yemon se waya."
Yemon se waya.
Yemon say, "Follow me, let's go and fight. Be this one, do that. When I come out, do this for you."
And they give them 10 CDs and 20
CDs.
CDs.
See them again.
So that's an important point. I want to hear from Esther. Okay. Esther, would you have a comment on this? You share that view?
What Nee said?
Yeah, what Nee said. What Nee and Joseph have said, that the loss of trust in the politicians, you don't have trust in, have no faith in them. But he also made a very important point about a certain youth revolution. His point is that when the youth decide to boycott the elections, for example, and tell the politicians off when they come and hand the 10 CDs, 20 CDs, that maybe will send a signal. Well, where do you stand on this?
It is true what they are saying. Honestly, I don't even know my MP. Yeah, because...
Which constituency is you?
Please, I mean, I'm here.
I'm here, okay. Yeah. Oh, that's a Adenta.
Yeah, Adenta. Yeah. It is heartbreaking that you only see them in their fancy cars.
And that Adenta, rather, it says the MP belongs to NDC's political party. You don't know him, so that's a...
Actually,
well, I know you're going to say that, but the MP is important. He's your rep. Please proceed, Esther.
Is he an NDC member?
Yeah, please, yes.
Oh, my God. It is heartbreaking that concerning common...
You should send the feedback to him, by the way.
I will.
Okay. Mr. George, right?
Yes.
Okay, it is heartbreaking that concerning disability common fund. Up to date, we have... I know it is there, but as to its function, we don't know. Because I'm a victim of that. Since 2018, I heard of this. I tried applying for that in support of my education. By then, I was at the basic level, and now I'm in the tertiary. So imagine the struggles. They requested for my admission letter, and a whole lot, my transcripts for all, just a computer. I was requesting for a computer to support my education. The question they asked me was, what am I going to use it for? It is heartbreaking when somebody asks you this question. Fine. By then, I was in JHS2. So they told me that unless I'm in the secondary school before, they will give me that computer to learn. I'm now in the tertiary school. When I went there, they told me they've not received money. So I want to know the people in charge of this, the people who are to supply the money for us to have access to our common fund.
Yeah, common fund that belongs to you.
Yes.
And thankfully, both Haruna and George worked in that sector. So you can answer this question. Please make notes, because I'll come to that. I want to just discuss this a bit more. So you're saying that because of that experience, you've also lost faith in your politicians and the governments?
Why won't I lose? Because my mom is a trader and my dad is a driver. So imagine we have 5 siblings, some are in the tertiary school, struggling for everybody to be educated. And as a person living with disability, they know that there is this opportunity to also support them. And here is the case. We've applied several times. My dad has to stop work for some time because he wants her daughter to get access to this. And we go there, nothing. You can go there, you say that they tell you, wait, this person, the MP will soon be here. We met the MP, but no, we haven't seen anything up to date. So please, I would like to know that what are they doing? There has to be clear rules that if a person with disability brings this requirement, it's a must for you to fulfill that thing for. Because if not my parents, then I think I have to stop schooling at secondary school.
This is a powerful story indeed, and trust me, they will answer that question. Both of them have taken notes.
Have to.
And so, to the bigger point though, can you, as a young person, and you've heard Nee make the point that if all of you come together, you can force them to listen to you and do the things that will really impact your life negatively, positively. Can you, as a young person, prescribe what, as young people, you can do about this problem?
Okay, we can't say that we are going to be rude. Throwing stones and stuff is not going to solve the problem. Sorry. So the best, it might get to a point in time, there will be election, nobody will go to vote.
Joseph?
Yeah, I agree with her. And as young people, I can tell you that most people that I've spoken to, my friends, when we talk about elections, they'll tell you that me, I'm not going to vote, so I don't know who I'm voting for, and then I don't have an option. And I believe that if it gets to a point where the government cements our distrust in them so much, then we won't vote. We won't give them the opportunity to go and represent us. The country will be left ungoverned. And if that happens, there will be chaos everywhere. And so that's the point to which people have lost trust in the government. We don't see, it's like when it's election time, you see them all over the place. MP.
Are you seeing them now?
No, I'm not in my town, so I don't know what's going on.
So because you're in school?
You see them naming streets that have not been tarred with people's names, trying to fix up holes in the road and all of that. When it's after they swear them into office after January, that's it. You don't see them again. And so we want them to, we elected them into office, so they should work with us, they should account to us, they should tell us what's going on. How are they solving the problems that they promised us that they will solve?
Okay.
We should have that connection. They shouldn't be detached from us and enjoy alone and then leave us.
Let me get them to respond to the issues, and I'll come back to you. When I come back, one of the things we'll discuss is the unemployment challenge and what all of you have to say about the questions you put to them. Let me start with you, George. To Esther's question very specifically, the District Assembly Common Fund for people with disabilities.
Esther, let me help you with a little education. I don't know what the structures are today because I left government almost 8 years ago. But when we were in government, the MP does not administer the District Assembly's Common Fund. The MP does not also administer the fund for people with disability. The District Assembly is headed by the District Chief Executive or the Municipal Chief Executive. And under his watch, there is a department called Social Welfare. When we were in government, that was what the setup was like. So I don't know what is happening today. And so the allocation for people living with disability had a special account. Under President Mills's presidency, every district was instructed to open an account separate from that of the District Assembly's Common Fund accounts that we had. So the money was transferred directly from Accra, from the Common Fund administrator, into that fund. And so people living with disability, you had a committee at the district level where you took all your applications to, and then it is vetted. Those who want to learn vocations, those who want to learn trade, those who want money for small-scale businesses, and even those who wanted money for education. It is when they have exhausted that fund that the officer in charge will write to the district chief executive requesting for additional funds. But at assembly level, the MPs are given some allocation, some amount of money from the district assembly's common fund. Usually it is not too huge, but that is what they use in doing their monitoring in the district. They support, because the MPs are not development agents, so they use it in helping. Usually there will be problems with healthcare. Some students in the community who are looking for education, who are looking for sponsorship, they apply through that. I don't know if that is what you applied for through the MP's common fund. That is different from the fund allocated for people with disability. And so there is that program. I don't know what happens today, but when we were in government, that was what the system was. And we are sure that when we come back, it still found space in our manifesto. That when we come, that setup that we had, it worked perfectly. And so we intend to implement it again and make sure people who have, or people who live with disability are given preferential treatment. Because when the money is allocated directly, the money doesn't even come and sit in the District Assembly's common fund. So we use it. It goes straight to their funds. And then whoever the district coordinator for people living with disability is the signature together with the social welfare.
Let me hear Harun on that.
Evans,
to Esther's point.
Luckily, when Professor Mills was in government, I was working in the District Assembly. The persons with disabilities fund was legit. It was not on any special account. I was a member of the Disability Fund Management. At that time, I was in Gushogu District, now Gushogu Municipality. It was legit, where you have to apply. Application goes through the committee, and it is still the same process, headed by or chaired by the social welfare officer is the secretary to the committee, and then one of the assembly members is the chairman to the committee. That has been it. I was part of the administration. I'm telling you.
No, that's history. That's history. Please address.
I was a technical person on the committee because I was the director for...
Address Esther's problem for me then.
So it is still the same process. But however, even at the time that we were there, not all persons with disability who had applied for the assistance gets it. Because we know the common fund has not always been...
So what's the criteria then?
So the criteria that is being used at that...
How do you decide who gets it and who doesn't?
Yes, the committee will sit down, look at the various forms of applications. At the time that I was a member of the committee will sit down, look at the various applications that has come before, vis-a-vis the fund that has been transferred to the District Assembly Common Fund, the allocation that has been made. And mind you, currently, the percentage that is allocated to the Persons with Disability Fund is being increased. However, I will not be able to give the exact rate. However, you would not, whichever situation, you would not be able to give, to get everybody to be given. Esther's point must be very clear because she has applied, she has not gotten
but
it. That's not.
Mr. Haruna,
yes.
Since 2018, don't you think it's too long for me to...
Yeah, I agree with you. That is why I am making the point. I agree with you because it is your right to be assisted through the fund. So as we speak, this is a national platform. And I think that the assembly in concern is listening to the concern that is...
You still haven't received it? Esther, you still haven't received it?
Let me say this.
No, I haven't received anything.
Let me say this. Apart from the Persons with Disability Fund assisting people...
I get it. Beyond the bigger...
MPs also assist people to go to school.
Okay, so Esther needs immediate assistance. From here, would you have influence? A second. Can you...
MPs have fun and they assist
people to go to school.
Okay. So your MP has... Are you registered with the Disability Association in your district?
Yes, please.
Okay, your MP just got in touch with me and said, after I should take your details and then you see how best he can support you.
Haruna,
obviously it's a government support.
Yes.
Money that is...
But she needs immediate help. You have been there before. You know people in your government who can address this.
I use the platform.
Others.
I'm going to make sure I get the MCE in charge to make sure that this particular issue is being addressed.
Esther, we're going to make sure that you get that quickly done. Both of them have made promises here on live television. We'll address it. Okay. We're going to wrap up. We're going to wrap up in the next 3 minutes on the subject of unemployment, right? And I know you raised it first, Nee.
I wanted to make some.
I'll come. All of you have the final thoughts say on that, so you can choose that to do that. Ask your question on unemployment. What was your fundamental? And all of you, I believe, share the concern of unemployment, right? Which Nee had raised. And Esther articulated hers as it relates to those persons with disability. Joseph, I believe you also share that concern? Yes, so Nee asked that question on behalf of all of you. What was your question?
So back to my constituency. There are a lot of youth there who are well educated. People always say, oh, Ododio or Jamestown, people you don't like school. But people are well educated there. People having their masters, their doctorate degrees, and they are sitting in the house. Nothing is being done. I partially blame our education system. Because our education system is more theory than practical based. So people go to school, learn the big grammars, and come
What's your question to them so that we can get them to address it very quickly?
So my question to them is that, what is government doing about unemployment? Like what Mr. Haruna said, that unemployment cannot be solved totally, but what is government actually doing to cut it down to the minimum?
Okay.
That's my question.
So that's the government, but I guess you can flip that question to George too. What is their proposed intervention to fix the unemployment problem? If they get a nod on December 7th. Yeah, we have less than 5 minutes to wrap up. So, Haruna, you have a minute to attack this question, and then you have 30 seconds to address the other issues that you have.
Yes.
You should have a plan. Just address it.
I would surely do that in a very snappy. You are talking about we being in government in terms of the Galamsey issue.
No, so address the Galamsey second. Yes. Address him first, and then you can come to Galamsey.
I should address him first.
On unemployment.
And on the issue of unemployment, you know that the MPP as a party and government, when President Kufuor came, we said that unemployment was becoming a national security issue. We sent in to do what we call the needs assessment issues to be able to address unemployment. We're the first government to introduce the national...
Yeah, he's asking about what you are doing and what you want to do in the future.
I have to give the base, because if you have done it before, if I don't do that and tells him, he might not be able to understand that whether we'll be able to do it or not.
Okay, fair enough.
Because we laid the foundation.
Fair enough.
We identified it as a national security issue. We came up with what we call the National Youth Employment Program. We followed it up with a voluntary service system because people are sitting at home, just as he said, to be able to give people who have done their national service to continue to do national service before job situation comes. We also brought up what we call those who had finished universities and polytechnics to be picked into the public sector, and we eventually made them permanent. We have done so up to this particular stage. When we came into government, we realized that the NDC party had sent us to IMF, and no youth of this country was supposed to be employed as a policy credibility issue.
In government?
Yes, in government. That was very key.
Opportunity for private sector also.
When we came, a lot of youth go to the educational sector. Even the Free Senior High School alone brought about 836 people, 8,300.
The problem persists. So what's the policy for the future?
The policies that we are looking at for the future is that we are going to make sure that industrialization, the industrialization will lead the queue, where we'll be able to open up in the private sector to be able to employ many more of the youth into the private sector, so that government sector can also take up the balances that is there to be able to support in that area. That is why His Excellency the Vice President has said that he's going to train about 1 million youth. 1 million. That is very huge in terms of providing job opportunities. So it's another sector that we are going to look at. And then we are looking at the STEM education. STEM education. That is going to look at technology, science, mathematics, and all that about. That is going to introduce and make sure that we imbibe in the study of the student, because he has mentioned it, that part of the problem is from the universities that we go through. And if you are able to train them from the universities to be able to stand on their own, to be able to use their hands to do something, they invariably will not come out and depend on government. And this is going to support to be able to reduce unemployment situation in the country. And in this particular direction, we are going to make sure that job opportunities will be open, job opportunities will be made accessible, and the private sector will be given the needed support to be able to absorb some of these particular youth who are unemployed within the sector.
Thank you. There is hope.
Yes, sir.
We are coming up with a policy called the 24-hour economic policy. We are also coming out with what we call the Ejuma era. Under the Ejuma era, we are looking at equipping 10,000 young people to start up their own businesses. We are going to help you with business advisory. We are going to support you with loans. And then we are going to help you supervise your business and find the markets for you so you can start a business and employ many more people. When we talk about a 24-hour economy, it's a very simple policy. People have struggled to understand it. It's a three-shift economy. What we need first is to pass a legal framework so that some key governing industries that can run 24 hours do 24 hours. When that happens, for instance, let's take this facility being a hospital. Ideally, hospitals should run 24 hours.
They are already doing that.
But in most places, you see, when you're already doing it and it is not happening, are two different things. When you go to a hospital setup in the morning, when you see the OPDs, you will find more than necessary patients in there. Because everybody knows that if it doesn't go at a certain time, if you go after 5 p.m., you will not find a doctor. If you go after 5 p.m., you will not find a pharmacist. If you go after 5 p.m., you will not find a lab technician. And so when we pass that policy, when we pass that law, when the legal framework is passed, what it means is that three shifts. So if 10 people were engaged in the morning, 10 will be engaged in the afternoon, 10 will be engaged in the evening. That will create more opportunities for people. We're also coming out with the 1 million coders program. Ghana sits at an advantage. When it is morning in Accra, it is morning in Europe. When it is evening in Ghana, it is afternoon on the west coast of the US. And sometimes when we are sleeping, the east is up. When we train coders, it will create a lot of jobs for people to do data entries and other things. Call centers. When you call international organizations, the call centers around the world, you end up speaking to people from India. It is difficult to even understand them. What the NDC is saying is that we will train coders and we'll open up the space so that we can leverage on our time, the GMT we sit on, so that we can outsource or we can source jobs from other parts of the world to support these young coders. We are also promising that when you give the NDC the opportunity to lead this nation again, we will do what we call the Proud Knowledge Apprenticeship Program. There are a lot of us who have gained skills. When you see the informal sector, just a few of us end up in tertiary education. There are so many of us who go through the informal sector, but there is no certification. So you finish and you leave Ghana. You are a mechanic. You are a barber. When you go out there, you need some certification. We are going to use TVETs, which we are credited for, to make sure we satisfy all these people and give them that certification.
Okay, George.
They need.
George, thank you. 30 seconds each of you now as we wrap up. And whilst I know you have this substantive matter you want to address on, you have 30 seconds to do that. Please also address all the concerns about the lack of trust and lack of faith in politicians. And they are hinting that the time will come when they will have to take this whole thing by force through a revolution that will mean no voting, boycotting the elections, but also the youth may repeat what may happen in Kenya. But Esther makes the point that throwing stones is not the answer, but something has to give. I want you to address that too as we wrap up. Quick 30 seconds.
Yes,
yes, you can do that.
Under the Galamsey issues, we have been able to recruit river wardens around to deploy to guard some of these particular river bodies in terms of the stoppage of these military issues in terms of fighting Galamsey. We have also been able to put tracking devices on some of these heavy equipment.
The excavators.
To be able, the excavators to be able to. And even within the forest sector, there has been some equipment that have been put in there to track when they enter into those particular forests. These things have been done. We have also deployed some speedboats. You know, we have procured some speedboats to be able to monitor and guard against these the water bodies spoilage and here and there. And we have also established district mining committees, which involve these stakeholders who are going to help in fighting, including chiefs and other bodies that are going to do that. In terms of addressing the three issues that they have mentioned, touching on the three issues, unemployment.
No, that we're done. I'm wrapping up now. The only thing I wanted to comment on is consensus that they've lost trust in politicians.
Well,
give me a quick comment on that.
Yes, in terms of trust, I want to assure them that the Vice President is very confident. He's very visionary in terms of what he says. Two of them are going for the contest. One has been president before, and one has told us that when it comes for elections, you can say what suits the people because you want to get power. You can say anything to be able to get to power. One has never been president before. One has been vice president, and he has contributed and assisted his boss in terms of implementation of policies that will affect the team in youth. He has talked about the 1 million youth training in terms of coding.
Well, they've had all that, but they still tell you that they've lost faith, they lost trust in politicians.
The issue of trust here, I am going to assure you that trust us, trust the Bawumia ticket, and Bawumia is going to be able to.
Okay, George.
The ticket.
I ran out of time on this.
George lost that trust.
George,
Ghanaians have lost that trust.
They've said the warning has been, the notice has been served. They've had them. Both yourselves and the NDC.
Me, Esther and Joseph. I'm happy you voiced out, and so when you speak like this, it gives us opportunities to also speak back and then get to understand what young people are thinking. What I want to assure you is that it's okay to lose hope, but give us the benefit of the doubt. We are promising a change from the old ways of doing things. We reckon the situation that faces all of us. We've told ourselves, as National Youth Organizer of the NDC, time without number, I've reminded our leaders and elders that the people will not be patient any longer. What Lee spoke about, what Esther spoke about, what he spoke about, I relate with it. What happened in Kenya, I feel it. I live in this country. And you see, for the last 8 years, it becomes very difficult for you to appreciate that government will solve problems. Because the many promises that these guys made when they were looking for power, the things they told us, one district, one factory, this and that, it has all not materialized. So it is okay to lose hope. But I'm assuring you that at the end of the tunnel, there is hope. The NDC is going to fix the problem. We are going to move out. We know that you will not be patient with us. If we don't fix the problems within the shortest possible time to restore the confidence.
You said you are not magicians.
And George,
we will not get
George and Haruna.
So continue to trust us.
George and Haruna, thank you.
John told you that he's not a...
George and Haruna, thank you very much. And you have the final word. When we started, you told us that you have no plans of voting because you just lost faith in the political system and in government. Have you heard anything today that says maybe you should reconsider? Or nothing has changed for you? Nothing has changed.
Me,
So actually, to be sincere, the truth is nothing else. I'm still not convinced.
Okay, no, still not convinced.
Me,
Okay,
you
so
be
you
convinced.
so you still not vote this year.
me, you'll be convinced.
Because I'm still not convinced.
Okay, Nee, thank you very much. Esther, thank you very much. Joseph, also thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening, people. We'll be doing a bit more of this. Next week, we'll be focusing on the Health Manifesto, and we'll be joined by Kwame Sapansiru, and we'll have the panel here to go through that for you, what the party should be focusing on that. And then week after that, on Wednesday, we'll also focus on agric, also the agric manifesto, and we'll get the experts to also unpack that also for us. This is PM Express. Enjoy the rest of your evening.